did any part of you give any shred of shit when, for some random reason, meme culture and the internet decided to be? I mean, they're assholes every day.
We can see these questions coming a mile away.
But you gotta, you have to bring it up a little bit because it is so like,
Well,
what do you think?
Just to prove the fact, just to prove it to you, have you seen? Look at this graph.
Yeah.
Look at this graph. Yeah. You've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's our music, and we can get that taken down anytime we want.
Totally.
And we left it up because we thought it was funny.
Well, because it actually, I think it actually brings more eyes and ears to you than it takes away, and it's this weird place of like, it's not, you're not canceled. It's just a conversation that's brought up. So it weirdly actually adds to the fame and success.
Weirdly, it does, and we've been saying that for years too. Like, the same with the hater sphere. Like,
it's a big topic.
But it's like, little do they know, they've contributed to our longevity.
Oh yeah,
absolutely,
like,
solidifying you in culture.
Absolutely,
and history.
It's like they can, say what you want, but like all those bands that we came up with that didn't get the hate, they're just gone, just gone.
And the thing with the hate is nobody actually hates you guys. Nobody knows why they hate you guys.
Well, our new T-shirts say Nickelback, fan or liar.
Yeah, exactly. It's just bandwagon hatred.
There's not a lot of thought and calculation that goes into that. To be a hater, you don't really plan it.
No,
you just
following the crowd.
Yeah, and you're saying what you think everybody else is going to nod along to.
Yeah.
And if you keep saying what you think everybody's going to nod along to, then that's great. And in a sort of cool way right now, that narrative is not that popular anymore.
Yeah.
Ryan's got a great story, and I love this story that you told about, like, so his son, how old's your kid? How old's Dax?
He's a man, 19.
So 19.
7?
I always have to say, my kids, I mean my adults.
Yeah, so his son was, so he's coming up through school, and some kids find out that his dad is the guitar player for Nickelback, and I mean, they'll pick on you for anything. You don't need a reason, so if you've got that, that's cannon fodder. So they're picking on him for his dad being the guitar player in Nickelback. His daughter is 2 years younger, and this is how fast things have changed. She goes to this party, and he's like, "Well, how was the graduation party?" She goes, "It was good, except they played Nickelback all night long." So just in 2 years, it's just like boom.
Well, because your songs have taken on new life via TikTok. Like, again, that surge of people, like, just having a come up conversation brings new eyes and ears to what you do that eventually leads to people caring about it, because at the end of the day, the conversation's brought up because the songs are too catchy and too meaningful, and when you hear it, you are transported back to the first time you heard that fucking song.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Like, there is real power behind the records that you've crafted and the hits that you have in terms of how unique they sound, how distinct they are, and how emotionally triggering they are. So, I mean, like, at the end of the day, we're talking about a conversation and a fad that's actually built on appreciation more than it's built on any sort of hatred.
I think there's a gauntlet that we have to run, though.
That's what I was going to say.
There's a gauntlet we have to run, because we got on stage and we presented, I think it was a Billboard Award. It might have been a I think it was a Billboard Award, to, who was it? Def Leppard. We were in Vegas. We get off stage after presenting the award, and Joe Elliott and Phil Collin, they're back there, and they say, "Hey, we got to thank you." For what? For taking the torch. Which torch? Most hated band in the world. It's like, oh, you guys were the most hated? Like, oh, absolutely. For years, when Pour Some Sugar on Me came out, he said we were the most hated band in the world. We, the AC/DC guys, we were in Chicago. And we went out.
What else did they say?
Remember that? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, they said if you write one more song with one of our song titles,
if you write a song called "Pour Some Sugar on Me,"
yeah,
we're gonna fucking see.
Because we had Photograph and animals on, even though.
Yeah, Joe
I never thought of that either.
Like, if I see Pour Some Sugar on Me coming out of you guys, we're coming.
So
That's the cover on the new album.
Yeah, there you go. So then
was that the cover song?
We were in Chicago, and the AC/DC guys invited us out for dinner, and we go out for dinner, and Brian Johnson says the same thing. He goes, "Oh, when Back in Black came out, we were the most hated band in the world." because it was just so overplayed, you know. And then he goes on to tell these stories. He's like, when Zeppelin first came out, they were hated.
I don't really buy it.
And so,
Especially the States.
Yeah,
and
I'm
so,
always-
so I mean, there is this thing like if you're like, I don't mind being in that company with
Yeah.
you know, Def Leppard, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin. If you're gonna be, you know, if that's what it takes to get to that status, and you've got to go through, you know, being the most hated band in the world for a while.
It's all okay.
I think it'll be all right.
I don't think the whole most hated band, I don't think that's really valid. I don't buy it. I think you're in the focus.
Yeah.
And you're really loved at that time too, because at that time when Def Leppard was quote unquote the most hated band in the world, they're also the most.
They're also the biggest band in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Same with AC/DC,
Yeah.
same with Bon Jovi, same with Metallica. All these people that were hated in their heyday, that's a crock, dude. People were loving them. There's just a handful of, you know, it's always the negative that goes the hardest, right? You compare hate and love. Hate always is more potent.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So, you know, I don't buy it.
commiserate
Like the
over
whole
hate.
most hated thing. It's
Has
just
anyone had the chance to talk to that Brian Posehn comedian that kind of started this whole thing?
That's funny. We just had this conversation this morning.
That was the Comedy Central commercial.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
guy that that went viral. Like he said,
Yeah.
Yeah, because
something
that's the commercial that Comedy Central used for like 6 months. It was just nonstop.
Yeah.
You know.
I met him.
You did.
I ran into him. I didn't meet him. I ran into him at the Anthrax Black Label Society concert at the Palladium about, I don't know what it was, 2 or 3 months ago. And I was like, no.
Oh, come on.
You know what? It was one of those things where I don't want to go too much into my thoughts just
Yeah.
because it might not make me sound like the nicest guy in the world. I just kind of felt like,
He made a joke. That's
yeah,
it.
no,
He
no,
made a
yeah.
joke.
I know.
Comedy
I didn't
Central
feel
is the
like it
one that
was
made it
so-
into a commercial
Yeah,
and played
totally.
it for
So
6 months.
Well, by the way,
I didn't feel
they-
like it should be done. You know, I
They
didn't feel
monetize
like-
that like nobody's business.
Oh, for sure. This is the strange twist, I think. So I watched, saw a video with Colin Quinn because it was for his show, and talking about this, and he spoke about this, and like he's like, I didn't know like that was happening. Like you, it's almost like he parallels what kind of happened to us, where you get this oversaturation, and then something happens because of it. Where he said, yeah, he had this show, they had this bumper ad or wherever it is with this joke in it, and it was right when Comedy Central was just
Popping.
huge.
Mm-hmm.
They had South Park going on, and if Jon Stewart show was on, or something like that, or like it was like everybody had the eyes on that,
Yeah.
and they just played that between every show. And he goes, it was actually quite nice to hear him say, he's like, I didn't realize this happened. If I knew it was going to be, you know, affecting somebody's life or career, I probably would have told them to pull it or stop or change it or something like that. But they just play it, and then it becomes part of the public narrative.
Totally.
So and that's why people are kind of going now. You know, I feel like they're like, well, why did almost like waking up out of a fog? Why did we do this again? It was because
Totally.
it just was.
Well, by the way, just because you shove something in front of people's eyes doesn't make it a valid part of the public narrative. You know what I mean? And I think that's really interesting. That, and this goes back to like, even at the top of this conversation, you guys became a band and reached the highest heights of success at a moment in history and media that will never be repeated again. Like the idea that there is even that many fucking eyes on comedy. Like if you were to make that same joke today based on the ratings of Comedy Central, nobody would fucking see dick.
Yeah.
Literally nobody would see anything. Nobody'd be talking about it. It'd show up nowhere.
Yeah.
It would not even remotely matter at all.
Yeah.
But because of what was going on in the time that we were in, the focus was so narrow to just, I mean, it wasn't what it used to be, but still will never be that ever again.
No.
There'll never be a moment in time where tens of millions of people are tuned into Comedy Central over even a week's period of time,
Right.
let alone what was probably a day back then.
Yeah. No, absolutely, right.
Totally
And I don't even-
different.
I don't even know if that's good or bad.
Well, and our
There's
attention
probably
spans,
good and bad to
you know,
that.
with what we're inundated with
Crazy.
constantly, it's just like, you know, it's not even here today, gone tomorrow. It's here
Second.
this 10 seconds and gone in 10 seconds.
And you want to move on so quickly.
Yeah.
You have a craving for something new and different.
Yep.
It's really unique.
Yeah, it really is.
Like there'll never be another band like y'all.
Well, if I if I slip on stage.
Wait, who are we going to give the torch to?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, someone's got to take it.